I can't believe people drink this much beer.
Pues esto ya se salió de control y hay varias personas detenidas y varios lesionados.
I think what amazes me is every time I walk in here how much beer we're making and the consumers are demanding.
For us, it's important to keep the consistency on every single bottle of beer produced.
We know we've challenged some people with our commercial success, but every one of them has stepped up to the plate.
In January 2016, American-owned Constellation Brands announced plans to open a $1.4 billion state-of-the-art mega brewery in Baja Mexico's capital city, Mexicali. The new brewery will produce Constellation brands such as Corona and Modelo to be exported for the American market. Constellation announced the new brewery would create 1,000 permanent jobs and up to 4,000 temporary job opportunities during the brewery's construction. This would make Constellation Brands the biggest investor and employer to the Mexicali region. For a small farming community, this sounds like the opportunity of a lifetime. The new jobs will certainly cause a boom to the economy, new commercialization opportunities will open, and possibly attract new investors to the region. This new brewery has the possibility of changing the lives of Mexicali's residents forever. Unfortunately, the citizens of Mexicali don't agree that this change is for the best and worry that it could ruin their lives forever.
Pues en enero del año pasado empezó este movimiento porque los diputados de Baja California aprobaron una ley el 19 de diciembre de 2016 para privatizar el agua, y con las movilizaciones que se hicieron a partir del 12 de enero se hicieron 3 movilizaciones muy grandes de más de 50,000 personas o 30,000 otra de las manifestaciones, y con todas estas movilizaciones logramos la primera ley en el mundo que se deroga, que la echamos para atrás, que logramos quitarla. Es la primera ciudad del planeta que logra esto. Y a partir de ahí nosotros empezamos a saber muchísimas cosas que están mal.
Mexicali is primarily a farming community nestled in the fertile Mexican Valley. The majority of all produce exported out of Mexico comes from this region, and these efforts are the livelihood for the majority of Mexicali's residents. However, due to political issues outside of their control and the ever-changing climate of the Mexican Valley, Mexicali has been facing ever-increasing effects of drought, slowly turning the region into desertous terrain unsuitable for sustaining farming operations. The Mexicali farmers essentially rely on a large underground aquifer to sustain operations. Additionally, this aquifer is the only source of drinking water available to the citizens of Mexicali. The Baja state government has given Constellation permission to drill into this aquifer as their main water source for brewing operations. The problem is that this aquifer has been running on a deficit for several decades due to drought, and the Mexicali citizens worry that the brewery consuming such a large volume of water for their beer will dry up the aquifer, eliminating their only source of water to sustain their farms and their lives. So to counter this, the people of Mexicali have risen up to fight, quite literally, for their right to survive, resulting in injuries, police crackdowns, riots, and chaos throughout the region. Hey everybody, welcome to Life is Beautiful. Today we're going to be discussing the worst humanitarian crisis that has ever been caused by beer. We're going to discuss the planned Mexicali brewery owned by Constellation Brands, which is going to drain the entire region of all of its natural water. We're going to discuss the historical issues that have caused this problem, and then we're going to discuss what we can do in the future, if anything, to stop or mitigate these crimes against humanity that Constellation Brands is imposing upon the people of Mexicali. So without further ado, let's get into it. Water has always been an issue in the Mexican Valley, especially the city of Mexicali, which faces the hottest temperatures annually throughout Mexico. There's hardly any rain, with an average annual rainfall of only 79 millimeters. There are no streams, no rivers, and no lakes big enough to sustain a civilization. In fact, water is so scarce that it isn't even unusual for Mexicali citizens to wake up and find there is no running water available in their household, much less enough to sustain the massive farming operations that provide the livelihoods for all of its residents. But it wasn't always this way. In fact, this is actually a rather recent problem. Mexicali's water issues originated in 2005 when the United States decided to make renovations to the All-American Canal. The All-American Canal is an 80-mile-long aqueduct located in Southern California that conveys water from the Colorado River into the Imperial Valley and 9 valley cities, including Mexicali. Construction of the All-American Canal was completed in the 1930s. However, due to lack of technological advancements at the time, the canal lost approximately 68,000 acre-feet of water annually due to seepage. This runoff allowed the Salton Sea to survive, as well as replenished underground aquifers throughout the valley, to include the one in Mexicali, and would even allow them to maintain normal usage during prolonged periods of drought. However, in 2006, the United States declared ownership of that seepage. US politicians claimed that the US owned the source of water system, thus they owned 100% of all the water passed through the canal or seeped out of it. Congress approved renovations on the All-American Canal to add a lining system to it that would prevent the runoff and allow Americans to access this water in its entirety. Fearing the inevitable destruction of the Mexican Valley's production, Mexico filed a civil suit in American federal court on the grounds that it violated their water rights for the Mexican citizens and would deprive them of their ability to survive. Unfortunately, a rider on the Relief and Healthcare Act of 2006 made the completion of the lining project mandatory, forcing the federal court system to drop all cases related to it. The lining project was completed in 2009, effectively eliminating the only water source to the Mexican Valley, leaving over 300,000 Mexicali residents without a consistent renewable source of fresh water. In 2015, Mexico's National Water Commission reported that 37.5% of Mexico's aquifers were overexploited, with Mexicali suffering the most. This has led Mexicali farmers to stop producing on large sections of their lands, leading to increased cost of living and increased unemployment rates. To make matters worse, the Mexican federal government is incapable of providing fresh water to its citizens. So the Baja government transferred all of its rights to a third-party private corporation who will then distribute the water out to the citizens of Mexicali, of course for a fee. So with so little water already and so many complications for the Mexicali citizens to be able to get a life-sustaining resource, how in the world did the Mexicali government think that it was a good idea to give their water reserve that is already running on a deficit to Constellation Brands for this mega brewery? This brewery is estimated to consume 1.8 billion gallons of water annually. That equates to almost 1% of the remaining water inside of the Mexicali aquifer. So what could cause this? Well, the answer's simple. Anytime you ever hear about a government that is taking the needs of the citizens and pushing it aside for their own benefit, there's only ever one cause, and that's money. You gotta follow the almighty dollar, or in this case, the peso.
I'd also like to welcome here the representatives from Mexico and Canada and tell them they are, in fact, welcome here. They are our partners in the future that we are trying to make together.
In 1994, the North American Federal Trade Agreement was signed, encouraging North American countries to engage in free trade amongst each other in hopes of bolstering each of their respective economies. NAFTA revolutionized the way Mexico's economy worked, and the Mexican government began to redirect their efforts towards exported goods for the United States market. Following NAFTA's approval, Corona's parent company Constellation Brands doubled down on the American market, and Corona quickly became the #1 best-selling import beer in the United States. To supply this massive demand, Constellation Brands quickly opened 2 mega breweries along the border, offering jobs and economic growth, all the while siphoning off a disproportionate amount of the local water source. In fact, in 2016, the mayor of Zaragoza, which is a home of a smaller Constellation brewery, claimed that Constellation used so much water that it left the town without any drinking water and then abandoned the city, causing mass unemployment. Despite this evidence, it was these job opportunities that inspired Baja's politicians to bid for Constellation to build its 3rd mega brewery in Mexicali anyways. The new mega brewery would bring jobs and an economic boom, and would partner with an already existing local aluminum factory. And politicians thought that this would be enough to make the people happy enough for no one to notice that they were lining their pockets.
Constellation Brands is the owner of Corona Beer. And why is this all about? Why we don't want Constellation Brands here? Because the governor say that will gave us lots of salaries, and we'll be better with Constellation. And all the people know that it's all about the water. We are defending our water. Mexicali is in a desertic zone and has a valley rich in agriculture economy, but shares the Colorado River with California. This watershed is considered endangered.
It also probably didn't hurt that the legal representative for Constellation Brands, Sergio Eduardo Montes Montoya, also works in the Mexicali's mayor's office as the director of urban administration. It also helps when your state senator Victor Hermosillo Salada's construction company wins the multi-billion-dollar contract to build this new brewery. It's also probably why Constellation was going to receive a $22 million sweetheart deal from the Mexican federal government to construct a 30-mile-long pipeline to feed the brewery its water from the Mexicali aquifer. And it's why Baja State Governor Francisco Vega is trying to pass a water bill that would allow private entities to access treated water for private services in an act of water privatization profiteering. You would have to be blind or on the payroll to not see that Baja's politicians are selling out their constituents to line their pockets with Constellation's pesos. Despite the obvious flagrant corruption, Constellation released a statement on the matters that read, "Constellation Brands denies the suggestion of corruption. No government officials or authorities in office have been hired by Constellation Brands. We continue to work with local authorities to ensure all aspects of our brewery construction project are in full compliance with all applicable rules, regulations, and laws. This has been validated by Mexico's Minister of the Interior." Now, first off, I would say that it's not so smart to say that the source that proves you're innocent in government corruption is the government. The Baja government does not care about their people or their right to resources, especially since, in a historical context, legally, it's the farmers who own this water in the aquifer. And that's why I think, without a doubt, Constellation Brands took advantage of these corrupt politicians to further their own political and financial gain. Constellation Brands took advantage of a corrupt system, a corrupt government, and a corrupt policy to extract all the resources needed for life to maintain sustainability. And the part that pisses me off is all the while they're exploiting resources, they're exploiting finances, they're exploiting politicians, they're exploiting the labor force, they're acting like they're doing the people of Mexicali a favor by giving them jobs and giving them money, despite the fact that if you look at every other major brewery that Constellation Brands has opened up in Mexico, they're mostly completely automated, or at least mostly automated. So much so that that's actually a bragging point that they post on their social media.
I can't believe people drink this much beer.
So what's to say that after this brewery is constructed, and sure there's some people on the payroll or whatever, it's not going to go full automation like every other brewery, eliminating those promised jobs. The Baja government and Constellation Brands are sacrificing the people of Mexicali to produce beer that the people of Mexicali won't even be able to drink, since it's all being exported to the United States. Since it seems that nobody will fight for the rights or the best interests of the people of Mexicali, the people of Mexicali decided they're going to do it themselves. Protesters, farmers, humanitarians, they all formed together to create a collective known as Mexicali Resiste. Since it seems no one will fight for Mexicali's best interest, in 2017 the citizens, farmers, and sympathizers of Mexicali decided to rise up and do it themselves, forming the Mexicali Resiste. The group organized concerted protests at 3 pivotal locations: at the gates of the brewery's construction site, at the aquifer construction site, and on major highways leading to the brewery. Throughout the year, they would win several important battles in their fight for survival. Protesters on the highway prevented the delivery of construction equipment, and when police came to intervene, discovered the transported company did not hold the proper permits, forcing them to delay further deliveries by several months. The brewery entrance team delayed deliveries and construction crews from entering the site days at a time. But most notably was the clash at the aqueduct construction site.
Que estaba mirando todo, ¿no? La reyerta, piedras. No, mirando, acá andan mirando. Y hay policías calabrados, hay policías graves, a golpes. Aquí hay policías graves, causados, Se lo llevan. Sí, vamos, mirando.
Mexicali Resiste formed protest lines to block workers from reaching job sites along the planned aqueduct, throwing rocks and other debris at state and federal police officers as they moved in to break up the blockade. One protester even drove a vehicle into the approaching officers in order to scatter them. In retaliation, the police began throwing rocks back at the protesters. One of the rocks thrown by the police hit a young woman in the head, causing a gash to open on her forehead. But yet, she continued to fight back. All being captured by a photojournalist whose photo would go viral, garnering media attention, international discussion, and condemnation throughout the beer community. This one photo acted as a rallying cry, bringing in financial and physical support from activist groups, environmentalists, and various Mexican farming federations, leading to hundreds of people to join their cause. And to everyone's surprise, it seemed that the Mexican federal government was actually listening. The president of Mexico even spoke out against the construction of the brewery, causing the Baja government to cancel the planned aqueduct for Constellation's new brewery, signifying a meritorious victory for Mexicali Resiste. In spite of this victory, Constellation announced plans to continue constructing the brewery and announced they had obtained permits to drill directly into the aquifer without the financial aid of the Mexicali government or their aqueduct. Mexicali Resiste was enraged and escalated their protests to stop Constellation by any means necessary. Several pipes that led to the Mexicali City Hall were damaged, denying the building access to water, and attacked state employees who were sent there to repair it. One protester climbed onto a crane to prevent its use and stayed there for 3 days without food or water, until he was so weak that the police were forced to climb up and drag him down for his own safety. The protesters even formed an official petition to President Donald Trump requesting to stop Constellation on the grounds that it would take jobs away from Americans. But nothing seemed to be able to stop Constellation. Protests and clashes with officers would continue throughout 2017 and 2018, leaving dozens of Mexicali Resiste members injured or arrested. However, as bleak as things seem, I am proud to say there is a little bit of light, a little bit of hope at the end of the tunnel. As I was going to put the final touches on this video, I was very happy to stumble across some new news articles coming out of the region. I discovered there had been one last significant event, and that was in March of 2020, the federal government of Mexico, the president of Mexico specifically, gave the people of Mexicali the right to vote on whether or not they want or do not want the Constellation Brands brewery. Now, controversially and suspiciously, this vote happened to take place in March 2020, in the middle of the global pandemic of coronavirus, of COVID-19, where people were supposed to maintain social distancing or quarantine even, where the numbers wouldn't be en masse to come out to vote. Fortunately, despite the limits of social distancing, the people of Mexicali rallied and they showed up in overwhelming numbers, voting for a 76% disapproval of the brewery. As a result of this vote, all the construction work has been halted. Constellation Brands has been invited to talk about foreign investment at a one-on-one meeting with the people of Mexicali. They've denied it. And additionally, the water board has decided that they will no longer be issuing rights to their water licenses or anything to anybody related to Constellation Brands. Man, sorry, I'm stumbling here, but this has been a long time. I've been following this for years, and it just feels good to have a little bit of closure. This entire saga has proven one thing, and that is Constellation Brands is an evil company who is willing to exploit, extort, and sacrifice any and everybody for cheap labor and to make money on the cheap. It exploits people, it exploits governments, it exploits the environment to detrimental amounts, and they have no regards for this long trail of destruction that they leave in their wake. Even now, following that overwhelming collective of the Mexicali people speaking their voice in a political manner, Constellation Brands is still planning to find some way to continue on with their brewery. If that doesn't tell you what type of people they are, I don't know what will. And the worst thing is, I have a feeling that if they are incapable of continuing on and completing this mega brewery in Mexicali, they're just going to go somewhere else and exploit them, where people won't put up as much of a fight, where the government will be more willing to work or be better at hiding it even. Constellation Brands has proven that they are willing to use and abuse communities and the environment and abandon them when everything that's left to take is gone completely. I mean, there's nothing stopping them from just continuing this on for years and years, all throughout Mexico, just depleting natural resources and destroying lives. So what can we do about it? Firstly, we need to raise awareness of it. That's the whole reason I made this video. You know, I don't get paid for this. This isn't my job. I don't get any monetization off of this. I did this as a labor of love, following, researching, doing everything I could for 3 years to compile this video. So I just want to get this information out there. Y'all don't have to share my video. I don't care about that. Just take the information and pass it on. Secondly, what you need to do and what you need to tell everybody that you share this information to do is boycott Constellation Brands and all of their subsidiaries. Constellation Brands' biggest, most well-known ones are they have the distribution rights for Corona, they have Funky Buddha, they have Ballast Point, and a myriad of other Mexican lagers and American liquors. Boycott them all. The only thing Constellation listens to is their wallet. So that's where we need to make our voices heard. We, as a human race, will not tolerate these bastards going in and desolating the earth and literally sacrificing people's lives just to make money. It's not fucking right. The simple fact of the matter is that life is more than just money and beer. Beer is honestly not that important. Choose a different beer. Choose a different brand. If you can't live without Corona, Funky Buddha, or Ballast Point, I don't know what to tell you, man. There's plenty of great offerings out there. I mean, I'm not saying Dos Equis or whatever parent company that makes this is a good company or whatever, but at least they're not actively destroying people's lives, you know, at least not in the forefront. And if you don't want to go for a big brand, fine. There's plenty of crafty options that will gladly, easily supplement and even be better in quality than these offerings. American drinkers need to know that every single penny spent in Constellation Brands products are going directly towards funding an evil corporation who, if they had the opportunity, would crush you beneath their heel just as easily as they were willing to do it to the people of Mexicali. And lastly, we need to support the people of Mexicali. They are literally fighting for their lives. The least we can do is show them some small support, even if it's just raising awareness, just whatever. We can't let their struggle be in vain. If you want to donate monetarily, you can visit their Facebook page. They have several official channels, which I'll link down below, but I'm not even asking you to do that. I'm just asking you to help them by not supporting the enemy. That's it. So in conclusion, this saga has been very long running, and I'm hoping we're near its end. I mean, this brewery was supposed to open up in 2019, and because of the people of Mexicali, they have been able to push it back to 2021 at the earliest, never at the latest, hopefully. So for the end of this video, I'm going to show Mexicali Resiste's manifesto, and it's going to go through talking about all their desires, their demands, and their plea that people come to help them. So for my final parting words, all I gotta say is just do the right thing. Share awareness, talk about this, and just don't buy one specific brand of beer. It's that easy. Thank you everybody for watching. Cheers.